There's a moment she won't talk about, a feeling she can't quite name. It doesn't come crashing in, it creeps in quietly, a few weeks after everything ends. Life seems normal on the surface. She's smiling, laughing, posting, living. But underneath, something feels off. Something's missing, and she can't explain it because she hasn't realized it yet. But you've changed. It's not your absence that lingers. It's the space you left behind. The silence, the void. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't make a scene. You didn't try to win her back. You just stopped showing up with the same energy, the same presence. And that's what's haunting her. Not heartbreak, but confusion. She doesn't know why she feels it so deeply. But this is what happens when a man truly detaches. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet, stoic, controlled. But it shifts something in her, something she never saw coming. Because it wasn't about distance, it was psychological, emotional. You didn't just leave, you took back your attention, your affection, your emotional availability. And now, what's left is silence that echoes louder than any argument ever could. She'll try to brush it off. She'll blame it on stress, on distractions, on timing. But deep down, she knows. When a man pulls back fully, a woman feels it before. She even understands it. And by the time she does, it's already too late. You're gone. And not in a way she can reach anymore. If you're done giving your emotional energy to someone who couldn't value it, and you're ready to reclaim your power, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and drop a comment below. Now let's get into it. Number 1, you were emotionally gone before you physically left. She thought she had the last word, the final move, but what she didn't realize was that you had already checked out, not physically, not yet. But spiritually, mentally, you were already done. She didn't catch you off guard. You just stopped, pretending, stopped investing in a connection that no longer felt mutual. See, men don't always leave with a bang. Most real departures happen in silence. You stopped chasing conversations. You stopped needing closure. You stopped putting energy into something that had already lost its meaning. She didn't notice at first because she was used to your consistency, your effort. But when that effort disappeared, when your responses became colder, more distant, something in her shifted too. She didn't want to lose you, but she could feel the power slipping and didn't know how to stop it. By the time she made her move, you were already gone. You didn't argue, you didn't plead. Because the truth is, she didn't lose you that day. She lost you weeks ago when she ignored your silence, when she missed the moment you stopped feeling anything. And number 2, her control was tied to your reaction. She never had to chase you because she always had your attention. When she pulled back, you leaned in. When she went cold, you tried harder. When she went silent, you filled the space. That was her power, your reaction. But the moment you stopped responding to her, your patterns, everything changed. You stopped chasing, stopped showing up like clockwork, and the entire structure of control she relied on, it collapsed. Not because you turned cruel, not because you ghosted, but because you became emotionally unavailable. And that's the shift she didn't expect, the one that hits the hardest. Because when a man detaches without drama, it leaves. No closure, no final scene, just silence. And that silence speaks volumes. See, control in relationships rarely looks like control. It hides behind subtle dynamics. It's not about who talks the most. It's about who controls the frame. And the one who reacts is always the one who follows. The moment you stopped playing that role, everything shifted. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't beg for her attention. You simply disengaged. And she felt it immediately, because now she's reaching out into silence. She's sending signals that don't land. She's testing for your presence and getting nothing but stillness in return. And that unreadability, that calm, it's psychological chaos for someone who was used to pulling emotional strings. She never realized how much of her confidence was tied to your reaction until it disappeared. Now she's questioning everything. Not because you changed overnight, but because you stopped giving her the emotional feedback she relied on to feel powerful. And that shift, that's the part she'll never be able to explain, but she'll always feel. Number 3, she loses the access pass. She didn't just lose the relationship, she lost access. Access to your attention, your energy, your time, and more than anything, access to your heart. That's what she never expected. For so long you were open, available, consistent. Even when things weren't perfect, you were there. But now that access is gone. She doesn't get to casually check in. She doesn't get late night validation or emotional reassurance when her world starts feeling empty. She reaches out and gets silence, or worse, neutrality. You're not cold, you're calm, polite, indifferent, and that indifference, it cuts deeper than anger ever could. Because women remember how you made them feel, especially when that feeling is no longer available. She thought the door would always be open, that you'd always be one message away. But now that she's locked out, she's spiraling. Not because she wants to fix it, but because she no longer controls when and how she connects to you. And what haunts her most isn't the breakup. It's that you didn't slam the door. You didn't cause a scene. You just quietly disappeared from her emotional radar. The man who once gave endlessly is no longer reachable. The emotional access she took for granted, permanently denied. She thought she could always come back. She never imagined what it would feel like when the key stopped. And working dot number 4, she can't read you anymore. Before, she could predict your every move. She knew what each delay meant, what your silence meant, what your messages meant. She could feel your emotions before you even said them. That access made her feel powerful. She wasn't just reading your texts, she was reading your heart. But now, you're a blank screen. You're unreadable. Not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped projecting. You've pulled your energy inward. No more oversharing, no more wearing your heart on your sleeve. You've replaced emotional openness with emotional discipline. And that quiet control, that's psychological warfare to someone who once fed off your vulnerability. She checks your page and sees nothing. She texts you and gets dry, emotionless replies, or none at all. She tries to feel your energy, but there's no signal. It's like trying to tune into a station that no longer exists, and the unknown destroys her. People fear what they can't predict. And when a man becomes still, not rude, not reactive, just unreadable, it triggers a mental loop that never closes. She can't settle the emotional account. She can't get her closure. And worst of all, she can't tell if you even think about her anymore. You used to be an open book. Now you're a sealed vault. And the more she tries to pry it open, the heavier your silence becomes. Number 5, your absence forces reflection. When you were present, she never had to think too deeply. Your consistency gave her comfort. Your effort gave her stability, even if she didn't fully appreciate it. You were the emotional safety net. The one who forgave, who explained, who always showed up. But now that you're gone, the silence is loud. It's not just quiet, it's confrontational. Because in your absence, she starts to feel everything you stopped saying. Every time you chose peace instead of pushing. Every time you chose clarity instead of conflict. And now, she's left sitting in that space, wondering when it all changed. Wondering how she lost something that was always there, until it wasn't. And here's what you need to know. When a man detaches silently, calmly, with emotional discipline, it creates a shift that words can't explain. She doesn't just lose the relationship, she loses access to a version of you she thought would always be there. And once that version is gone, he never comes back the same. Because when you disappear without drama, without begging, without demanding closure, you leave behind something far more powerful than words: space. And space forces reflection. It makes her sit with the truth she tried to avoid. The way she treated you, the things she said, the things she never said. The imbalance she never questioned when you were still showing up. At first, she'll distract herself. She'll try to fill the silence, talk to someone new, repost, reconnect, restart. But none of it lands, because the stillness you left behind isn't just loneliness, it's realization. She's realizing what she had wasn't ordinary, that your consistency, your loyalty, your emotional availability, it wasn't weakness, it was rare. And now that it's gone, the weight of that loss starts pressing on places she never expected. That's what haunts her. Not the breakup, not the silence, but the slow, sharp realization that you were the anchor and she cut the rope. And once that truth lands, there's no conversation, no closure, no apology that can fix it. Because you were never the one who needed fixing. You were the one she took for granted. And now your absence forces her to face that truth alone. Number 6, you become a memory she can't kill. She'll move on, or at least she'll try. She'll smile in pictures, talk to new people, keep herself busy. She'll act like she's thriving. But behind the noise, there's something she can't shake. You, not in her inbox, not in her life, but in her mind. You're not watching her stories. You're not liking her posts. You're not reacting. And that silence, it leaves her questioning everything. She'll try to replace the feeling, try to recreate the connection. But every new relationship feels off, because you didn't just leave. You left behind a psychological imprint, something she never expected, something she didn't want. And no matter how loud her life gets, there's a silence underneath. In all that sounds like you, she'll laugh with someone new and still compare him to your calm. She'll stay up late and wonder if you're already over it. She'll realize that she no longer has access to who you were, and that the man you've become, he's not looking back. You're not a message away anymore. You're not even an option. You're a standard now, a memory she can't reach. And the worst part? She doesn't know why. She just knows you live rent-free in the one place she can't block you from, her mind. Number 7, you create a contrast no one else can match. At first, she thought replacing you would be easy. A few flirty messages, fresh attention, that temporary high of feeling wanted again. She assumed other men would show up like you did. Stay consistent, care deeply, be emotionally available. But that illusion didn't last, because now every new conversation just exposes the gap you left behind. Every text from someone new reminds her what she used to have. You didn't just set a standard, you created emotional contrast. And now she's feeling it. She didn't appreciate your consistency until she experienced inconsistency. She didn't value your calm until she met chaos. She didn't notice your depth until she was surrounded by surface-level energy. You didn't become unforgettable by being flashy. You didn't become rare by playing games. You became unforgettable by being grounded, stoic, disciplined, focused. You weren't performing. You were present. You weren't perfect, but you were real. And that's what made you different. That's what made you irreplaceable. And no matter how far she runs, how many new faces she entertains, how much noise she surrounds herself with, nothing matches your silence. And now every man she talks to feels like a downgrade. Not because they're not trying, but because none of them carry that same presence, that same silence, that same grounded certainty you had. She may never admit it. She might even pretend she's better off. But deep down, she knows, because when she scrolls through her phone, when she looks at all those shallow connections and empty conversations, there's one name that doesn't show up anymore, but still overshadows everything else. You didn't just leave, you raised the bar. And now, no matter who comes after you, the contrast is too loud to ignore and too rare to replace. Number 8. Her fantasy of control collapses. She thought she had time, thought she had options, thought that no matter how messy things got, you'd still be there. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. She believed she controlled the story, that she could leave, try something new, and still keep you close, just in case. That illusion gave her comfort, It gave her confidence. It gave her power. But now that entire fantasy is crumbling because control doesn't exist when it depends on someone else's willingness to stay. And you stopped staying. You stopped being predictable. You stopped orbiting her like a backup plan. And without your energy feeding the dynamic, her entire sense of control starts to fall apart. She won't say it, but she feels it. She's no longer in charge, not of the timing, not of your emotions, not of how this ends. That's the part she never saw coming. Not that you left, but that you didn't leave broken. You didn't spiral. You didn't reach back. You walked away clean, calm, focused, and that silence. That's what shattered the illusion, because if she truly had control, you'd still be checking in, still showing signs of struggle, still giving her something to manage. But you're not. You're gone, detached, unmoved. And she can't wrap her head around it. Now everything she thought she could predict, when you'd call, how you'd react, if you'd still care, is gone. And the scariest part? She can't fix it, can't flip it, can't undo it. Because the moment a man stops trying to hold on, the illusion that he ever needed her at all ceases to exist. That's what keeps her up at night. Not the breakup, but the realization that the control she thought she had was never real. And now that you've walked away without a final word, her story has no ending, just echoes. Number 9, your life continues without her input. She expected to be part of your next chapter, even if it was just from a distance. She thought she'd still have a say, still hold space in your thoughts, still hear her name echo in your choices. She believed that even if you moved on, some part of you would still pause before every big step and remember her. But now she's seeing something she never prepared for. Your life unfolding without her. You're not checking in. You're not updating her. You're not asking what she thinks. Your world is in motion, and she's not a part of it. And that's not just painful, it's humbling, because it shows her clearly that the influence she once had is gone. You don't need her to process things anymore. You don't need her validation to grow. You've reclaimed your focus, your energy, your routine, and none of it revolves around her. She doesn't get the phone calls, doesn't get the deep conversations, doesn't get to hear who you're becoming. And what stings the most, you're not flaunting it, you're not performing it, you're just living it, quietly, fully, without her. She was used to being the checkpoint, the one who could shift your energy with a single message, the emotional fallback. But now, your life keeps moving, no pause, no throwback, no looking over your shoulder. You didn't just move on, you moved forward, and that's the shift she can't undo, because while she's wondering what you're doing, where you've gone, and how you're feeling, you're already too far ahead to even notice. Number 10, she doesn't know why she can't let go. She tells herself it's over, tries to rationalize it, tries to act unbothered, and maybe to everyone else she seems fine. Smiling, posting, moving on, but deep down there's a silence she can't shake, a weight she can't name, because something about you still lingers. Not loud, not dramatic, just present, quiet, heavy, unavoidable. And the truth is, she doesn't even know why. It's not because you fought, not because you yelled or begged or sent one last message. You didn't chase, you didn't react, you didn't explode, you just shifted, slowly, calmly, and permanently. And that shift created something far more haunting than heartbreak. It created uncertainty, a psychological gap she can't close, a question that has no answer. You didn't give her a reason to hate you. You didn't give her closure to hold on to. You didn't offer one last scene she could replay in her head. You just went silent, and you evolved. And now she's left with fragments, memories that don't feel complete, doubts that never settle. And a man she once thought she could always return to, completely unreachable. That's what lingers. Not a fight, not a wound, but the absence of noise, the absence of emotion, the absence of you. She can't pin it on a moment, can't point to a reason. That's what makes it worse. She doesn't know why it hurts. All she knows is that something slipped away before she realized it was leaving. And now she's haunted, not by what was said, but by what wasn't. Not by your presence, but by the fact that your absence feels deeper than any goodbye ever could. She'll move on. She'll laugh. She'll fill her feed. She'll distract herself. But there's a version of you she'll never forget. And a question that will echo longer than she expected. Why does this one still sting? She won't have the answer. But you will. Because silence is louder than closure. And the shift. That's what stays. She may never admit it. She might never understand it. But something changed when you stopped chasing, when you stopped explaining, when you stopped showing up with the same energy. You didn't rage. You didn't prove your worth. You didn't try to win her back. You just disappeared, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and became the man she was never ready for. She'll wonder why she can't let go, why she still thinks about you, why she compares everyone else to someone she can't even talk to anymore. But you'll know, it's not what you said, it's not what you did, it's who you became. And the hardest truth for her to face. She didn't lose the man you were, she lost the man you became, and never. Got to know, the version of you she can't reach is the one she'll never forget. And now the shift you made quietly will haunt her loudly. If you're done being predictable, if you're ready to reclaim your power through presence and peace, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below, "She lost access when I found peace." This is Stoicism, where we don't chase closure, we become it. Thanks for watching.